with pandemics in a very good way. That's right.
Yeah.
Protect the internet.
Obama put it in place in 2015.
And then
In
it got
2015,
repealed like recently,
and
right?
it got
Or like a
repealed
year or two ago.
2017.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it was only active for 2 years.
But the fact that they were able to put like such a big, strong voice in showed that people weren't going to stand for any kind of threats to the internet because people stood up to it. It's actually, I guess, it's funny. It's kind of the same mentality.
Yeah, the threat to the internet was the FCC regulating it as utility. That was the actual threat to the internet.
I kind of partly agree, but I partly don't, because I agree that the government shouldn't be involved in things, and like the Consumer Protection Agency and stuff like that. It's just a joke. Like, they're not actually protecting consumers; they're just creating more regulations. But the internet, I kind of feel like that's a little different. I feel like
You would say it is a utility.
I don't think it's a human right that everybody should have access to internet, but I do think that deserves to be protected to prevent companies from polluting and doing what they were going to do in Canada and throttle and like upcharge you for access.
Yeah, I hear you. I understand the impulse to not want that. When I look around the world and say, okay, let's make two categories of people in power. People who have power because of a company, which is a voluntary arrangement, among individuals, or people who have power because of government, which is mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
Which of those actually has done more harm to the internet, right? Let's look at, China is the obvious example, right? But Turkey, there's all kinds of countries where the government is the main threat to the internet. It's not companies. And there are no examples.
I agree with you there, but I think in America and Canada, it's different than countries like Iran, India, and stuff, where government is kind of like going to grab control and do whatever they want, shut off the internet during protests and all this stuff. But here, enough people would freak out that it would hurt them more than they want to profit off of monetizing the internet and by segmenting it and upcharging it for videos and whatever.
I think that's true, but only if it were a one point, or if there was like one event where they tried to like cut the internet off. I think you're totally right there. That would just not stand politically. But the problem, I think, if you give the government the power, is it's a bunch of small rules that take place over time that people don't really notice. It's things like the Sex Trafficking Act that has devastated a whole bunch of websites where sex workers used to be able to put ads and now they can't, which actually harms them, right? Like, SESTA was a terrible law and it's hurt sex workers.
No, I see that too. I see that too, but for the people that I think that are pushing for net, what is the phrase, like the social movement or whatever for this? What's it called? Net neutrality?
I guess, yeah, net neutrality.
Yeah, so those people that are pushing for net neutrality, to me, they're all the kind of good thinkers around this. I haven't heard anybody that is pro-regulation or pro-government trying to push net neutrality.
Is it better than toilet paper? I don't know what it is.
Oh, you're the owner of this thing.
Like one more week and you will need the AR-15 to buy toilet paper.
You're the owner of like the world thing, right? Or you're the person
I organized it. Yeah. I didn't build
toilet paper fights in America.
I didn't build it, but I organized it.
You're just standing right where I am, just looking at your head. It's really creepy because your eyes are so wide open.
Oh, I believe you. I believe you. Well, you look kind of creepy yourself.
So this is my first time in VR. This is pretty cool.
Sorry to tell you that.
Oh, cool, yeah. You should
If you leave again,
investigate VR chat. If you want to go slightly mad, this is a good place to just go slowly insane. Just try different worlds. Because this is like reasonable, but this is reasonable. Like look behind you and look at Wonder Woman. Just look at Wonder Woman. See, that's
What's that? What is that?
Yeah, and there are also some avatars or whatever the cool kids are able to do, and they can literally warp space-time and make you blind with everything.
exactly.
And it feels feels like you're on drugs.
I was trying to explain this to people, but you just don't, unless you've experienced it, you just don't know what it's like. Imagine it like you walk into a room with a bunch of people, they're mostly kids. They're wearing weird avatars like this, and then one of them like turns around at you, and you suddenly hear this loud blast of music, and then like all the space around you bends. Like
Yeah, he's looking hilarious.
the space bends, and it's full of different colors and screaming at you. It's just absolute madness.
Yeah, I can see it.
Just imagine like 50 avatars like that.
Alright, here we go.
What the hell?
Let's go.
To at least make sure that there is always the ability to.
Hey, Sam.
How'd you get a train?
Yeah.
How'd you get a train?
Just I bought a ticket. What do you want? Omnibus.
Oh, that's a person's avatar. That's hilarious.
That's
Okay,
hilarious.
so there's a movement to ban end-to-end decryption.
Oh yeah, right. Like governments around the world are trying to get together and say, look, we need to get rid of end-to-end decryption because it enables terrorists, child pornographers, whatever. Okay. So,
But that's not gaining any
Right now-
traction, though.
well, it's not gaining traction because they, for example,
Yeah, who is it?
don't
Yeah, Reebok.
have the ability to regulate the internet as a utility. If they were the ones who said, this is a utility and we are the ones who control the pipeline, we decide that you cannot send encrypted traffic over the internet. They could have done that, but now they can't.
Yeah, but I don't think they could anyways, because
Oh man, I'm obviously
that's the
gonna
whole
get
reason
sick.
why
I hope I don't
Bitcoin was
get pregnant.
successful. Like, the torrenting is illegal, but
There's
people
already
still
3 people on
torrent
it. Oh no.
because they can't stop it.
Torrenting-
It's decentralized.
Well, torrenting's not.
Torrenting copyrighted movies. I mean, like, you know, everybody
Trains are a good
everybody
place to
uses.
get
When I say
started.
torrenting, I mean like what people use it for. They don't use it for like their
Trains are
photos.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I'm gonna get off.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
You
get
guys
off.
are
Stay
in
healthy.
too close proximity with that train there. I don't see any N95.
Really, am I really tall?
You're pretty tall. You're pretty tall. You're obviously taller than you
Sam,
really
this
are.
is such a better conversation
Yeah,
than
I
the
said
last
it. I
week.
said
had
it to my
to.
sizes.
Last week I was talking to somebody for about an hour about
So I
his
look
token,
really
trying to
taller.
convince him
Oh,
it's a
boy.
bad
Like,
idea.
From my view, I'm just petting
sounds
him.
terrible.
You have more patience than I have. I don't.
I'm just
do you remember
petting
that
him
guy
from
who
my
was talking
view.
about Democracy Earth?
Yeah. That's the guy.
Yeah, I was talking to
Hey,
him for
butter.
like,
How did you get there?
I talked to him for like an hour.
This must have hurt.
The guy who was like a cypherpunk originally.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
originally a cypherpunk, and then he started talking about his ICO, and then I talked to him for like an hour, and everybody left. Everybody went, oh, like it was so hilarious. I was like trying to ask him about it, teach him like why it's a bad idea, and then the conversation slowly just left, and it was just me and him for like 2 hours, for like an hour. And
Sick.
So was that a blockchain voting ICO?
Oh my god.
yeah, but he was trying to
Basically. You're
there was
crouching.
he was
Amazing.
because I was like, you know, is there a token? He's like, no,
Are you
no
crouching?
token, because there was a bunch of Bitcoiners around, I guess. He's like, no token, and then I went and googled it, and I was like, there's actually 2 tokens.
crouching?
There's a float token and a, you know.
Are you crouching like this? I mean, are you just like this?
Yeah.
But the advice I gave him was
Reality, just
actually in the
like
end
this?
to just go look up the Tone Vase video with Richard Hart where
I'm
images
sitting
Oh,
at the chair.
that's why it looks so weird.
discuss
Just
why
like
it's
that.
You are
security.
like,
Because
it's
his
like
Yeah.
your
lawyer is
face
Jason
up
Silver.
back
He's
here,
got the
and
same
then you're
lawyer
just
as
like,
Richard Hart. Well,
with
not
your
as Richard
knees,
Hart, but
like,
as
over
the
here.
Richard Hart debate.
Oh man.
It looks like your feet are back there, but your knees are up here. It looks really weird.
Fucking ridiculous.
Yeah,
But the thing is, I was going to say, wait,
I
you
understand.
know, you say, oh, these
I found your
it's
skin
so
quite
surprising a
annoying.
cypherpunk wants to do with ICO. But they all do it. Fucking David Chaum has his own shitcoin. Every
I
single
know.
fucking one of them.
What do you think about
Apart from
that?
Adam
What do you
Back,
think
he's about the
that?
only one.
Change.
I think
Adam
it's
is-
fucking stupid.
Adam and Nick Szabo, yeah, they're the only ones so
Hi.
far I
Nick
think that
Szabo,
haven't
yeah, Nick
done-
Szabo.
Trace Meyer.
Nice.
Start with a Trace Meyer. Don't start with
Well,
that.
Trace,
If you don't know
Yeah.
any bitcoins, then obviously you're gonna ICO if you have
We are better friends.
What's really short?
because
David
it's
Chaum,
Well, apparently, yeah,
like,
Professor
profitable.
Coin, I know.
Am I like under the
Yeah.
ground? Or
Check-
can
Did you see the
Disappointing,
video?
I agree.
Did you see the video between David Chaum, Nick
They
Szabo,
were
and Adam Back
one
that they just
knee
did about
at the
2 weeks
ground and
ago?
one knee up.
Oh,
like
I didn't know.
that.
Oh, it was
Oh,
awesome.
It
Like,
looks like
is that unconfiscatable?
This thing is called
No,
this.
it was at like
How about over here?
some VC launched a new crypto fund, and they
now
had like a
you are
little
like
conference for the employees or something.
asses on the
And
ground
they
and
had
your
Adam Back,
knees are
Nick
up.
Szabo, and
Yeah.
David Chaum, and It was awesome. Like
Now you're like
Nick
standing.
and Adam were kind of like pushing against. You know, basic. I wish they were all high and like just I want to be a fly on the wall, right? Just because they were being about what they were saying, they weren't being like stop with this shit noise, David. You know, they were like they were trying to be respectful, but they were also like
It's actually my character just moving off into
intellectually demolishing David Chom. You know, while trying to be nice and respectful and whatever. So I mean, it was a really good video, but
like I described you as.
It seems to me like David Chom.
Wait, is it on YouTube?
What?
On YouTube?
Yes. Yeah, I'll put.
Oh, okay.
I'll put the link.
What?
I'll put the link in the VR chat after this. But it seemed to me because I've been following that project for like a year and a half because I'm a shitcoin closet shitcoiner.
Your hands are inside you.
Do I look like I'm sitting?
2x
Okay, yeah.
XXIR.
Yeah.
Terrible name.
Yeah, no, you're
It's a weird name. I guess it's because it sounds like Mixer.
I'm just
like Elixir Mixer.
Yeah.
I'm just
Oh, no.
sitting on like one of those like
Does it
plastic,
exist
those
yet? I
white
mean, is it-
plastic hampers.
No, he's doing an ICO. He's doing an ERC20.
I can actually sit down on
Oh,
many
Mainnet's
things.
not going to be ready
It's
for
really
like
funny
6
when you
months.
laugh because your mouth is like.
And then they're going to do the EOS
Like,
thing where they transfer the token over to mainnet. But
No, just whenever you talk, like your mouth looks really funny.
3 million or something. It's not a crazy ICO, but still.
Whenever you
He's
talk, your mouth
mining
turns
a
into like
coin
a
rather than
huge like
adopting Bitcoin.
black jelly bean.
And he rarely ever
while,
says
like,
the word
your-
Bitcoin.
While like
Like,
the
I haven't
eyes
seen him
are just
say
like
Bitcoin
tiny
until this
compared to
video
it.
because they talked about it so much.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like
Hmm.
he's the father of cryptography, right?
This is
So you
pretty
gotta have
funny.
respect for him. And he
Wait,
he
so
starts
if
to
I'm just right
he's trying
here,
to
does it look
rewrite
like I'm
history in a
moving?
way and make it sound like he came up with blockchain.
Yeah.
He came up with the idea of the
Oh,
blockchain.
so you can actually
He's been
move
doing
even
that.
though
I've
you
been
don't
seeing
have
him
to
like saying
like,
that,
use
and now
just the
there's this
character
new
moving
marketing
around.
like
You can
marketing
actually
team is
move
saying
yourself.
like David Chalm actually came up with the blockchain
Oh.
idea in the 1970s.
Yeah.
and, like,
He's going to fail just the same way he failed
Breakdance.
in the 90s. He's just too conceited. There's a long story.
Yeah, there's
like
some
a very good
cool
way of like
emotes,
reporting on the
Does
failure
this
of
look like the
DigiCash
class?
in the mid 90s. It's a really interesting.
Yeah.
I'd have to search for the link for it. But
I
it's
can't
really
do
good. And it's all
the-
about
the
what an
breakdancing one.
asshole David Chan was
What is
to
it called?
everyone he was working with.
Like,
You know, he just doesn't. I don't think
How'd
he
you do
gets
the
it. He's an
backflip?
absolute genius, like mathematically. The
There
ideas
you
of-
go the
the mix-
emote.
It's not just like
There
you
you
know,
press
features.
the
The whole
like,
idea
like,
of
how'd you do
mixnets
that?
and DC nets. It's
You-
just
Yeah.
in real life. Yeah, I made it.
fucking clueless when it comes to like the real world.
I would
Oh,
like
you're
to
dead,
have-
mother. Yeah.
I would like to have your opinion on it. If you would like read,
I
like,
didn't know there was
I'm not a
emails.
tech guy, so it's hard for me
Oh,
to
there's
get
a
it.
lot
I
of
can't
cards.
rely on the
Yeah,
opinion of tech
you
people,
see
and I
my
got a bunch
screen?
of tech friends that
screen?
we're like looking at their white papers and all that, trying
Yeah.
Do you see
Well,
this?
to understand what
Oh, you
this
mean
thing
Do you
is.
see like
Elixir
emojis
itself.
on
You
this
mean
The
thing?
Elixir network, yeah. I mean,
Okay, right.
it sounds interesting, but I
no.
cannot find a reason why they
No.
couldn't build this as a sidechain of Bitcoin or a second layer on Bitcoin.
Oh no.
They keep telling me on Twitter that they can't do it, but I keep trying to figure out why they can't do it, and to me it doesn't make any sense that they couldn't
Money
do this as a
scares
second
you.
layer or a sidechain.
You're
Other
on
than they want to make some money.
fire.
Because
Is that Elixir?
Elixir? Yeah.
Yeah. Like it could be
Feeling
like Lightning
really-
Network. It could be a competitor of Lightning Network, couldn't it?
Sleepy.
I have no idea how it works.
I don't know.
you get
Well,
like
the way
inside
they
the
say
ground.
is that
Um,
they say that the transaction carries
It's actually really
metadata,
comfy on our
and the
carpet. Just
transaction
laying down
gets
like this.
mixed, not the currency, but the transaction of the messages
that
gets
looks
mixed,
pretty funny.
like with a coin join style mix, I think.
Whoa.
You're
And
like
then there's
crawling.
yeah, it's a mixnet for messages, and then there's a coin too. So the mixnet for messages sound.
What are you doing?
Why not just use Bitcoin? And then they say,
It
oh, this
does- it's
can
not
be used for
scalable.
Bitcoin.
Can you do orange
Mixnets
justice?
are not scalable.
He
You
says
probably know
that he's
a little
What?
bit. You probably not understand what
Can you do
mixnets
orange
are, right? Do
justice
you know about
in Fortnite?
Binding Cryptographer Networks, Sam?
No.
Not really. Yeah, sorry. No, I'm not that familiar with mixnets.
But did you hit
my
your...
fingers.
The basic idea is imagine it like you had a
It's like
big
one
Yeah.
twig
all of us
finger right
together.
here.
We want to speak to each other in like I
Yeah.
It's like a
want
twig
you
finger,
want to say something
and
to
then a
Sam.
huge log figure,
Every time you want to say
and then
something,
like a tiny
it's
pinky
absolutely
finger.
like information theory.
Yeah, brothers have those kinds of fingers.
What your message is to
Aren't my
him, or
middle
indeed that
ring
you spoke
and
to him.
pinky
But the way that's
finger merged
achieved is by
together?
the fact that everyone is involved in the message.
Yeah.
Everyone
Is that like,
sends out a message.
It looks like that.
Yeah.
Is that Vuvuzela?
Vuvuzela is a bit different. But that's like adding noise.
This is
It's
like
like
how
a
would,
attempt
like
to
if I
do
had
a
more.
better version of Tor.
Ooh,
But the mixer is a very fundamental mathematical idea that you could
wait.
create it so that if we're all
Emoji,
like
put on the-
gathered together in a network, every time you send a message to him, everyone sends a message to everyone effectively in such a way that you can't
Yeah, that's
possibly
what it
know.
is.
Wait, don't
You can't possibly
Don't
know
look
who's
at
talking
anything.
to who or what they're
close your
saying.
eyes for a
It's
second,
like
and then
mathematically
open them
perfect.
up.
Okay.
In that sense, it's exactly
One.
the same mistake
Oh, you just
he made
ruined it.
there,
I was
They
gonna
went
do
like-
that.
which is he made a mathematical
I was gonna
world
do
that
this.
existed, which in the actual real world
I
is
was
practically completely
first.
impractical, will never work. Because the problem with Digicash was simply that it had a central point of control, so it was never really going to work.
These are so
But the issue
scary.
here
I'm
is that
sweating.
yeah,
I'm
the problem
sweating.
here is the
I'm
opposite.
sweating.
Yeah.
It's perfectly decentralized.
It looks like you're
It's
spinning.
scalable. It won't scale.
I need a
You
cool
can't make a
down.
mixed scale like that, I think.
Does
That's
it
my
look
problem.
like a
Well,
message?
I need
Yeah, I
a
was
cool
gonna
down.
ask.
Message was there's some
How come I
there's
didn't see
some
it?
similarity, but it's not. Yeah, it's not really.
Nick and Adam in the video, I think, talked about scalability, and
Need some
it
sunscreen?
sounded like there was a
Oh, wait,
consensus
it's the
among the
nighttime.
three of them, just like for the short
Yeah.
mention it, like that obviously is they figured out how to do. But then the conversation to the economic side of it, and like how
Yeah.
it's never gonna
Oh.
overcome Bitcoin's network effects, so we pretty much
Look
have
at my
one shot
dad
at
up
this,
there.
so like, why not,
dad up there.
focus on Bitcoin and
What are
those
you doing?
features for Bitcoin
Look
as
at my
a
dad
second
up
layer
there.
sidechain if they become
What
useful,
are they
and they kind
doing?
of went in that direction. And then David Chom kind of
Why is
like
like that?
origami and just started stuttering all over the place.
Oh, why is it like
Couldn't handle
a
itself.
laser?
Yeah, because he wasn't thinking about
You
like
see
that.
laser?
I actually don't think
It's because like I
don't think
have
it's
my
David's
menu
project
open right now,
100%.
so
I
like
think
this
it's
laser
being paid.
is to point
Yeah,
at stuff,
ahead,
but
okay.
like
I think it's someone
not
else's
right.
project.
doing that.
Right, I think you're right
Because
about
he
that. I remember that.
doesn't
Yeah,
get
I
into
remember
it.
that.
Like
Whoa!
when he
look.
gets
He's
asked
just getting paid
technical
off.
stuff,
Yeah.
And then
it feels like he doesn't. He's not actually writing it. He's
Avatar
endorsing it maybe, and they're using his ideas, but he's not actually
You
like
want a social.
the coder building this project.
But you know, so many they've all done this. You know, even like Merkel, right? He just what did he do? He just put his name on it on the Ethereum like launch. I don't know how much he got paid for that. He did fuck all, right? He did absolutely nothing for the project. Probably write something nice about
I
it.
just pressed something.
I mean,
and
this kind of it's despicable, but
There was
I mean,
another
people
there was
do
another
this,
one of
so
those
they
guys,
find a justification.
Yeah.
Who was the
Yeah.
dude recently? He's a cypherpunk. He was in like the Stropians or something,
I can't figure it out.
and
Where are you?
he launched a new financial technology, but it's not a
Wait,
cryptocurrency.
I have a game, okay?
Hmm.
So
Oh,
I'll just be,
here you
I'll
are.
just be like this.
I didn't know where you
I'll
are.
be like this,
It was
right?
like it was
And
like
then
a year
You
ago.
will look through all the skins for.
Hold on,
You
I'm gonna
do,
look it
like,
up on
the first
Twitter. I
5
tweeted
Oh,
about
cool.
it.
Nice.
Hey,
Yeah, I was wondering because Token Game always has weird
It is possible. You
positions,
just-
so
I
we
would-
were
I
wondering
would
what's up
caution
with
against
that.
doing it in this kind of group. But if you
Yeah,
want
well,
to
I don't know. Hi, everyone.
you pull up your menu, right? You know how to do that.
Yeah, and I'm on desktop.
Right,
Okay,
right,
I guess it's the
right.
same. I'm not
So
sure.
you're on
but when
PC
you pull
now.
up the menu, so you've got the one menu that says World,
Just try to
Avatar,
memorize
Social,
the
that one,
first
yeah.
3.
Okay, maybe it's not the same on desktop.
Oh,
Well,
I get it.
in VR,
I
you,
get
you
it.
then
Yeah.
point, you use your
Yeah.
pointer, and you can point at
I think-
people,
And then
and you
when
can
you're
actually
there, like, the
click
first
on
3
them.
ones that you can
And
see,
am I
or the
right about
first
this,
3 ones
Gigi? Then
that
you can
Yes, yeah.
then you
So
can
from
changes to them,
Yeah,
like
sure, let's do
unfriend
it
them,
quickly, yeah.
block them, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, let's do a quick one.
Person.
One of them.
Pull up the menu, point, click on the person, and then there's a new menu that you can change that person.
Hey.
But I wouldn't recommend like blocking people like kind of
Okay, cool. What's up? So this is the viewer meetup. I guess it's been a while now. I don't know, a few hours, I think. But yeah, we started with a talk by Jameson Lopp on another app called Mozilla Hubs. Kind of a lot of technical difficulties there, so I'm not sure how well it went for everyone. But
he gave a talk on a live conference, which is MIT Bitcoin Expo, and then he jumped in to do live Q&A in VR. I hope some people were able to hear the questions and the answers, but it was nice. And then we jumped in here. This is VR chat. It's working much better, so everyone's having fun. I think we're about 15 people here right now, probably something like that. Yeah, and that's it. How do you guys
this
move
avatar
together? What's that?
Yeah, I can tell you can hear me. Perfect.
Yeah.
I got like an audio out going into the computer to capture audio, as well as like a bunch of other stuff.
Right.
All right. So I'm gonna have that one be the camera, and I'm gonna interview you in VR.
Okay. Let's try.
Hold on, actually, one sec. I forgot one thing. I need to plug my audio into. 1 second. Into here. All right, now I'm all set. Ready?
Sure.
Fantastic. So that was a nice little snippet that I can put and show people what, what happened today. But now for just a little mano a mano interview, I thank you for the time. This is great, man. I love what you got set up. I love your whole Woody outfit. This is awesome. Tell us a little bit about like your inspiration for creating this.
Oh, I mean, it's not a lot of inspirations. We're all friends. At least some of us. So we wanted to hang out, basically. That's how it started. And then we wanted to, make it more of a serious meetup. So we started editing like talks. I think this was the second time that we tried integrating a talk at the beginning, and we'll probably do another one next week.
How many of the people in the chat and in the world do you know in the real world?
That's a good question. Right now, I guess about 3, 4, 5. Depends what you call no. But yeah.
Well, great turnout, man. I think we had up to about 40 people watching in real time on your Periscope. I seen we had a bunch of people trying to get into the Mozilla hub. I think we had reached the cap, which was about 29 people.
Yeah, we reached it. Actually, we should have put it lower. It was too high because it hurt the experience when a lot of people joined. So it's probably best for smaller like events. But yeah, it was a good tournament.
You hear that, folks? If you're using Mozilla hubs, do not go to 29 people. I think we saw that the frame rate dropped from about 30 frames per second down to like 5.
Oh yeah. I would say no more than 10 people at Mozilla hubs.
At max. So Mozilla hubs, great for having people that have a Mac and don't have any way to download, VR chat or Altspace or any other platforms. Perfect platform for that. But aside from 5 to 10 people, you need multiple rooms because it was not a good experience.
Yeah.
But this is a good experience. Sure. What do you think is the cap for VR chat?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it really depends on hardware and which world you're in and what avatars people are using. It really differs. It could be all over the place. I know that people try to go to like 50, 60 sometimes, which is a lot. Yeah, right now we're way below that. I think the most we had in VR chat for our group was probably 30, probably. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then I know that recently you started using Altspace. Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Right, sure. So last week we tried Altspace basically for doing a presentation. It's pretty good for presentations because they have everything you need. They have tools to manage who's allowed to speak and who isn't. You can invite people. People can RSVP to the event. They have good moderation tools, so it's pretty good for a presentation kind of thing. On the other hand, it's not very customizable. Like,
what's up, bro?
You have very simple avatars to choose from. So I think that combining like the best of both worlds is good. You know, to have a presentation on something like Altspace, which is more like serious, and then move to something like this, which is more, you know, open-ended and fun. So I think that's a good formula.
I agree. Hold on, let me let him know. Hey, read me more books. Love the name.
Hey.
We're doing an interview right now, a VR interview. So that avatar is a camera, and I'm also live streaming as well. If you check out the link in the chat, you can be able to watch our interview right now.
Oh, my bad. I'll hop out.
It's all good. You don't have to hop out. I don't mind. Actually, I want to actually come back. I want to add you to it. That's actually a great idea. Come on and join in. Tell me about your experience as a user, as somebody that is in our group chat. The group chat is t.me/VR Bitcoin. And I believe that's where you found out about this meetup, right?
Yeah, VR Degenerates.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How did you find out
That's
about
your first
it and
time
what
here, right?
pulled you in?
Yeah, this is my first time.
Cool.
I caught the presentation by Jameson Lopp earlier, which was very cool, and then came over here for the after party, had to download Steam, and then VR chat, which was super simple. And
Awesome.
it was a lot easier than I expected.
That's
that's
great.
good news.
And are you on a VR headset right now or a computer?
I'm on a gaming computer right now.
Does this experience make you want to get a VR headset?
Wait, how do you
Yes,
back to that
and this
macro one?
experience makes me want to do more VR meetups.
You go to Avatar?
Awesome.
Like,
Good.
it's fine on a gaming computer and stuff, which it wasn't very expensive.
Oh, and then you
And so this is super cool, and this is a new thing, but would definitely love to try this on a VR headset.
I'm gonna
I also want to ask, have you ever been to any real-world VR conferences or meetups? Not VR, Bitcoin conferences or meetups.
I've been to Bitcoin conferences. The first VR experience I ever had was at not the best Bitcoin conference, but North American Bitcoin Conference in Miami, and they had the Bitcoin Museum inside, which they had a VR experience as the last like room.
Interesting. What year was that?
I see favorite.
I think that was 2 years ago.
Interesting. I missed that one. I was actually at the North American Bitcoin Conference in 2020. It was a great event. I had a lot of fun. Have you heard of the Blockchain Center?
Yes, I went to the grand opening of the Blockchain Center in Miami.
Awesome. Are you a Miami local?
No, but not too far.
Awesome. Well, I'm Jerome from Bits and Tokens. We're a media company. We work with the Blockchain Center. We filmed a lot of the content from the grand opening to some of the events that they've hosted, like Crypto Mondays, as well as the hackathon and the North American Bitcoin Conference recently. We did a lot of different live streams for them, and I even put the Blockchain Center in Altspace in virtual reality.
Okay, very cool, very cool.
You got the answers for the math test?
Yeah, I want to also ask both of you, when did you guys get into Bitcoin?
My first experience was the Silk Road in 2011. I read an article and just got on there and looked around, never did anything, which I should have. And then it would be early 2017 for me.
Yeah, I bought my Bitcoins in December 2017 for $20,000. Then I sold them at the bottom at 3.2, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
me.
right.
Awesome.
Is that believable?
Experience.
Whoa, it's cool.
And
Yeah,
boating
absolutely.
accident.
Good, great. So that's what
So many
happened.
characters on here, like,
I ended
was a
up
fun time.
seeing Bitcoin in 2011 at 30 cents and didn't buy like an idiot.
That was me on the Silk Road.
let's try the wrestling match.
Well, guys, I want to thank you
No,
for
yeah, you have
talking
to
with
have the
me
first.
and having this VR interview here at VR Chat, VR After Party. We're going to definitely do this again.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Awesome, great
Thanks.
time. Yep, thank you.
All right.
No.
Have some fun, you guys.
Oh, you're pressing the buttons on here. It sounds like a keyboard though.
Yo, Drum.
Yeah.
Bro. We met in the line at the bar at
Beat
Bitcoin
Saber.
coin opening.
Makes sense.
Beat Saber.
Do you like Beat Saber?
That's awesome. I'm glad that like I got to see you in VR then.
Yeah, no, we met in person at the blockchain center
It's
in
just Beat
Andover.
Saber. Just
Your voice sounds
Just find
familiar,
it.
so it makes sense. I'm just now putting
That
two and
way,
two
like a
together that
volleyball.
obviously we met.
Yeah. I'll shoot
I
you a
just need to
message
see
on
the
Twitter.
face. Yes.
Or Telegram.
Yeah, that would help because I can't remember
It's nice to meet you
exactly
too.
who. There were so many
The
people that
fingers are
weekend.
so bent.
Yeah, no worries at all.
Human joints
Awesome, man.
can't
Glad I
bend
got to meet up with you
perfectly,
again.
so
I'm gonna go ahead
I
and
mean,
record
we
this
can.
and then go back and go edit
Is
the
this
snip that we
painful
just recorded
if I
for
did
that
this in
interview.
real life?
Yeah,
Yeah.
How about if you're a robot, just like tangling your wires like that? Watch this. Look, my hand is gonna be your hit. Watch. See, look at this. Does this look painful?
Yeah, it's looked like pretty painful.
I just have one controller. That's why my hand I can control or flip it over
I
like.
heard him sort of talking more and more like that in recent years. So that's a kind of a clue that there was a direction
But then
there.
he's also said that he believes that altcoins are like a battle for more territory on the Bitcoin block space. Like he always
that's,
looked at it like he's gonna sell the shit coins for Bitcoin and have more Bitcoin. That's kind of the way that he was presenting it, anyways.
Yeah,
But he wasn't private about how he traded shit coins and fork coins and stuff to get more Bitcoin.
That's right. Yeah.
Maybe he's doing exactly that now.
Second thing I was.
I thought maybe he was doing that, but then Giacomo said that the text message he got from one of his students or whatever was that Trace basically told him like, no, this is a coin to buy and hold. Like this will be better than Bitcoin, and that's something I've never heard him say before.
Yeah, the other clue. I was going to say the other thing. The other thing is the very strange behavior where he suddenly cut off communications. That is really weird, and that's the
I can
part.
understand that. I can understand that. I would probably do the same thing.
Of it. Yeah, there's the trivial explanation of it. But you're talking about somebody who's been in the public eye a lot and is not scared of an argument. So to me, there's something slightly weird about that. And I started coming up with like conspiracy theories in my head about maybe he lost all his money this way or that way. But I just can't come up with a theory that. But I can't come up with a theory that makes sense.
Here's what the theory is.
Wasn't Trace always known to never follow people?
Exactly. He's not following anybody.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
He's not following anybody. Plus, he's like likely worth 8 to 9 figures. And
well, there was that perception. Yeah.
He probably doesn't give a shit what anybody thinks in terms of the short term. But
that doesn't make sense.
What was someone saying? Oh, someone. In the short term, I think he's not concerned about what Twitter people are saying about him. I think he realized maybe he possibly realized that he did make a mistake, and then maybe the best thing for him to do is just not say anything about it because he's got this volume.
Well, the thing is, if I may say something, that Trace is part of some Bitcoiner groups and chat groups and stuff like that, and he was arguing with people a lot about fungibility in Bitcoin and privacy and even stuff like auto DCA and how to trade it best and stuff like that. And he was very outspoken against auto DCA, for example, and he had a very, very long argument with Has McCook about it. And since the incident of him shilling Mimblewimble coin, and by the way, there's a lot of evidence. Like, there's still some people that don't believe that, but he shilled it privately to multiple people and really told them to buy it and hold it, as he said.
Yeah.
And since the incident, like, there were 0 messages on any channel, like, and I don't know of anyone who heard from him. So I agree with Rexwing. That's really suspicious behavior. It's really untypical, you know. Like.
But during the conference, when it was already blowing up, he was there to accept the award for Richard Hart. You know what I mean? Like the fake award for the Scammy Award, and he kind of was laughing about it, like kind of like felt. It seemed like he realized that it was a thing.
How about this?
So, I mean, I Skyped him and he never replied to me, but like I've Skyped him in the past and he doesn't really say anything to me before, except for like, if you want to hear me, they can pay me $1,000 an hour or something like that. Like, you know, I've never. I mean, I actually did have a couple of conversations with him about Pivx and stuff because I was trying to tell him it was a.
Was it worth $1,000?
But it was like, it was already pumped, so it was like you should have got in earlier, look for a privacy coin that was based off Pivx that's gonna pump, you know, like that kind of a conversation.
The interesting question is there anyone left from like 2011, 2010 Bitcoin, apart from maybe Peter Wooler, who hasn't turned into like this ridiculous asshole? That's the question I have.
Well,
yeah, I don't know. I think Bitcoin derrangements in
Max
Rome is a real thing, and I
Max
think
Kaiser came back
people
around.
Turn crazy.
Max Kaiser. Yeah, I know, but like he came back to Bitcoin. Max Kaiser was doing Stratus or something, Startcoin or something, and Maxcoin obviously, but he gave up his shitcoiner ways and he came back to Bitcoin. He's been like totally. I think Max is a net positive for Bitcoin. He talks about Bitcoin on his show all the time. You know, Trace is still a net positive.
But that's the same kind of thing people used to say in 2013 about Roger Ver, when some of us would say, look, he's promoting a Disney version of Bitcoin. Everyone would say, no, he's good. He's doing really good marketing work for Bitcoin. It's like, fuck off, come on.
Yeah, but Roger...
These people are just used... I mean, sorry, Max Kaiser is a clown. Look, I mean, the guy is not an idiot at all, right? But he is... When I say he's a clown, I don't mean it as an insult. He's literally a clown. That's
well, he's like the Jim Cramer of Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. But not of Bitcoin. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but Max is totally a positive Bitcoin influencer at this point, and for the last 2 years, he was on kind of like on the big block side a little bit. He had some views about maybe Core was not doing the right thing for Bitcoin. Adam, are you okay? You're like glitching out there.
Yeah, you're lagging.
He's doing the safety dance.
Somebody grab us! Somebody grab us! What's an EpiPen? We need a virtual EpiPen. Call 911. Take his VR goggles off. Take his goggles off.
Oh no! He's having a stroke.
I gave him a seizure talking about Max Kaiser.
Yeah.
Can somebody
Shitcoin seizure.
What's happening? I don't see it.
You were
Okay,
seizure
you're
Having
now.
a shitcoin seizure.
You're all over the place. You're okay now.
You're good now.
You good?
Weird.
Yeah.
There is only Bitcoin. Only Bitcoin.
Max Kaiser's listening.
Yeah, where is he?
All I know is when I met Max, the entire event was just.
I think he's on the group actually.
He was what?
I think he's on the group.
The entire group was just.
Or at least used to be.
EOS?
Oh man.
So what's everybody's opinion on Bitcoin maximalism?
Well, I was kind of talking about that already.
Your mic volume is really low, Mr. Duck.
Mr. Duck, yeah, your mic is low. Oh, look, there's a circle over here. Maximalism. Okay, see.
What?
If you have a toxic emoji in your name, that's different than if you're been in a while.
Relentless propaganda all day, every day. Pum, pum, pum.
Am I still here? Brad, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
You're holding your
Right,
eyes.
Oh, okay.
I'm not.
What's that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're holding your eyes.
He's holding
Stop holding
his
your
eyeballs
eyes.
together.
Wow, this is weird.
Maybe your
Rudy,
goggles
I'm
are overheating.
feeling a little sleepy.
Yeah, I can see that.
You're just freezing, like.
He's blinking though.
Oh, it's probably a network thing. I'll just leave then. Okay, see you guys.
Later.
See you,
What's
bye.
that?
What the heck's happening to him?
You have to do a break dance before you log out, guys. That's the new rule.
That's quite an exit.
Oh wait, really?
Man.
Nice move.
What were we talking about, though? We were talking about Trace.
You were talking about maximalism.
Well, we were talking about Trace and trying to figure out maybe what's the situation there, why he's...
I think he's afraid he's scary because he's run out of money.
Yeah, he was not the hodler of last resort.
No.
No, I don't think that makes any sense.
The same move like
why would a person with 8
like
to
the
9
Hex coins guy
Wolf will go and make a shitcoin.
Well, he didn't make the shitcoin.
I know. I don't even know how small it is.
He didn't make it.
Buy 50% or buy 50% of the shitcoin.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. He bought some.
He doesn't have the money anymore.
Ridiculous amount of it.
Well, it's easy to think. There's two easy paths in this logic. You can think that he's lost all of his money and he doesn't have any money. That'll help your argument come true. Or you can think that he made the shitcoin.
He got liquidated.
Yeah,
on
you can
next.
think that, but if you go back and look at his trading advice and his calls and his early stuff, I mean, you can pretty clearly see the guy was in sub $1 and was talking about it for there's thousands of videos, or not thousands, there's hundreds of videos. You can see Trace Mayer. He's been constantly like saying the same things for 5 years. And he was on the right side of the, he was on the right side of No 2X. He was on the right side of the block size debate. He's been telling gold bugs.
Yeah, but it doesn't buy him anything now.
No, I know, but he's
one bad trade to put you in a bad position.
Yeah, but he's not a trader. He's like looking at it. He's a trader, but I'm sure he's not an idiot. Like, he doesn't take all of his portfolio and trade shitcoins with it. You know, he's got a he built.
Well, you
built,
never know what happened, right? You don't know.
Well,
anything could have happened.
Yeah, but I think it's more likely that he just either changed his thesis on Bitcoin and like maybe he wants to also find the next big thing because he found Bitcoin sub
he
$1.
actually believes that this is the thing.
I think it's more likely that he thinks it's a good investment than that he lost all his Bitcoin. I think that's more likely.
So why does he go to people at the bar and give them a piece of paper?
Because I'll tell you why. He invented the 7 network effects of Bitcoin. The first network effect is speculation, so he needs to get people. He's trying to create network effect. He's trying to show it to people so people get
at
it.
the bar who are probably going to have $1,000 to invest. What?
Yeah,
what's the point?
Well,
you would assume
it doesn't make sense.
But that's true.
Like,
Well, maybe he
if
has
your
been
thesis
doing
is
that
true,
too.
it was really bad execution. You know, like it was the most horrible execution you could imagine.
Wrong place.
Well, there's no way to do it. There's no proper way to shift from being a Bitcoin only guy to being a shitcoiner. There's no proper way to do it.
Well, there's one
why didn't he
way
know
to
that?
do it, and that's what Trace did. That's absolutely the worst way I can think of.
Yeah, that's literally the worst way.
I mean, it's like
you could keep talking about privacy.
It's a really cheesy way to do it for sure. But
yeah.
Did anybody here hear him say the privacy stuff?
Not from the panel you mentioned earlier.
No.
Yeah, from the panel, because I saw him speak to Bitcoin Magazine, like in his Bitcoin Magazine audio podcast interview with Vlad. They had a debate about privacy, and it sounded reasonable the way that he was describing his thoughts on how coin joining adds personal risk, and he knows his coins are clean, so why is he going to coin join? Like, that makes sense for personal risk. If he said on a panel that coin joining is bad, so buy Mimble coin, I mean, that's a different thing, but I never heard him say that. So I don't want to just assume that people are telling the truth about that. I don't think Giacomo's going to lie about it, so I got to kind of like trust Giacomo about what he says. But maybe the words weren't exactly like Bitcoin's no good anymore, buy Mimble coin. Maybe the words were the similar words that he said on Bitcoin Magazine podcast. Maybe he was just
it was
talking
pretty
about personal
clear.
risk.
There are even transcripts and there are messages of, like, there are screenshots of messages that were sent out by the people that were actually approached by Trace
Yeah,
And,
that doesn't look good.
so-
That's kind of shitty, the way that he said.
And it's also, I think it was also a very strong reaction because it was really weird that Trace was shitting on coin joining and on all the privacy improvements in Bitcoin so hard. Like he was shitting on Bitcoin privacy for 6 months straight or even longer, really hard. Like he was just against every privacy improvement.
He wasn't
And
shitting
then-
on them.
Oh yeah, he was. Oh yeah, he was. Oh he was. Oh yes.
Well, okay, so
Wimble is better.
And no,
He
he
was
was
just
also
saying-
sometimes like almost he brought up weird arguments. Like I think he's like many other people. I think like there are nuances to coin join. Some things like taint, for example, it's just not true. Taint is always an external property. It's not an intrinsic property. Like it's always
So
based
are you
on
saying
a
that
heuristic.
in some of these private groups he was shitting on Bitcoin, or in his interviews? Because I listened to a bunch of his interviews and I didn't hear him
in chats
shit
and
on
group
it. I
chats.
heard him. Okay, well I don't have that information, so I can't really. Can I see it? I'd like to see what he said.
I'm just providing some background what I think that adds to all this as well, because you have an outspoken Bitcoin personality who is for no apparently good reason, like his reasons to shit on CoinJoin were really bad.
Oh, so,
Sorry.
because
You
for a long time he was talking about confidential transactions and privacy on Bitcoin. He was like having dinners with like Greg Maxwell and Adam Back and talking about second layer privacy and Lightning Network privacy, and he was talking about how Lightning Network provided great privacy. But then it was when he started to do the work with Caitlin Long to pass the laws in Wyoming to protect Bitcoin legally. That's when I felt like he shifted to talking about how there's risk in privacy and how the regulators aren't going to like allow coin joining, just bypass the
maybe.
system. So maybe I was thinking that maybe like he was just in the trenches with Caitlin doing the laws in Wyoming and talked to a lot of regulators, and they just could not get the privacy stuff included in the build. But they got the protection
Maybe,
of
could be.
Bitcoin. They got that through, so legally you cannot now claw back Bitcoin in a bankruptcy or any kind of legal case. It's like in Wyoming you can't do that, but they wouldn't allow. Apparently, they wouldn't allow this privacy stuff to fly.
Yeah, who knows? And I'm not, like, I don't really want to speculate what actually happened. I just wanted to provide some background why
I appreciate that, because I
some
want as
people
much
really,
information about it as I can get.
like some people, they were just instantly pissed in the sense of okay, now it's blatantly obvious why he was shitting on CoinJoin all the time.
Well, okay, I can see
you
that,
know.
and I can see that, and I can see that argument. I can follow that flow through there, but I can also see that he's been consistent about saying that Bitcoin's decensored nature, like limited in amountness and fungibility, were so important. Like his message has been consistent, and he said that the limited amountness and the unconfiscatable nature of Bitcoin is more important. He recognized that it's more important than fungibility and privacy. And this was going back years. He's been saying this.
Yeah.
So he's been
No,
consistent there.
that's
The
all right.
inconsistent thing was what just happened, where he started to shill this shitcoin as if it was better than Bitcoin. He's never done that before.
Yeah, exactly.
That we know of.
He's somewhat consistent, but it's. I don't know what happened, but it would be perfectly reasonable that just your impression, for example, of Trace might be wrong in terms of his riches, and who
Could
knows?
be. Yeah, I mean,
It's
he could
just-
be a crack addict or something in secret. He could be a gambler or something. He lost all like in Vegas.
I
so
mean,
who knows?
it's
I
it's
doubt
really
it. I
easy
seriously
to
doubt it.
do a
but
bad trade.
anything is possible. Yeah, but he's built like Armory, and he's using the Glacier protocol, and he's like pretty pure on laptops
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
that's
like,
true. That's true.
He's got it set up so that he has to go to a vault in Switzerland to sign his keys. Like, I
Sounds
don't think
complicated. Maybe he lost his coins.
Yeah, maybe.
He did a shift.
What the hell?
How do you get back in? Oh, hi.
Hello, Mr. Lego.
Hello.
Look at me. Did he look?
So, Brad, are
Anyways.
you buying MWC?
No, I don't. I might, like, if it's actually good. I just haven't looked at it. I've been kind of
I know.
shocked, actually, by this, so I'm kind of, like, trying to figure out what happened. The Mimblewimble coin.
Right?
I bought Hex on a short-term FOMO trade. I didn't buy Hex because I thought it was an investment. I just...
Or assigned your keys.
Wasn't the best FOMO trade? No, I wish I had said that I bought it. I bought Hex too.
Did you buy socks as well?
Did I buy what as well?
Socks? Like CUX?
Oh, Jockum's thing? No, I didn't. That was a joke, right?
Oh, you missed out. You
No,
missed
that's
out.
better.
And Hex wasn't? Hex wasn't a joke?
Well, I mean, like, Hex is a joke, yeah, but it's like it's trading on exchanges and stuff. Is Sooks actually on exchange?
On one, no.
On one exchange,
No,
right?
You probably could trade it on a decentralized
It's on Dex,
thingy.
so it's on all the decentralized exchanges on
Yeah.
Ethereum.
Oh.
That's where I got it.
Oh,
No, it's an
man.
ERC20.
Okay.
It's not on BISC. It's on like EtherDex or whatever the hell they're called. I didn't buy it myself actually. I had my friend do it, who's an Ether guy, because I hate using Ethereum. It's so frustrating.
You have your own ETH dealer?
I've got a dealer. I seriously do. Yeah. I don't want to touch the shit. So I have a guy that I hire. I pay him 3% every time he does a trade for me with Ethereum because I just don't want to deal with the shit.
What do you pay him in
Don't
this?
touch it. Don't do it.
I pay him in coronavirus masks.
Pay him in
He
Hex.
gets
Pay him in
N90. He
Hex,
gets
please.
N95 masks.
Toilet paper.
Oh man, Ethereum is so useless that you pay someone 3% to not have to use it. This is amazing.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
It's the future,
I
man.
expect that to see in the
saying that
Ethereum
is so
newsletter.
easy to
Woody.
use
Oh,
and it has the great
I've been trying to
user
tell them how
experience.
bad it is to use, but I have 25 or so Ethereum that's just stuck on a Trezor from 2017. It just won't move. There's nonce errors and gas errors. And it's because I use the Trezor for Bitcoin and ETH, and I wanted to get rid of all the Bitcoin on there so that like I could wipe it and try to bring it back from seed phrase or whatever, and maybe that was the problem. But I just gave up on it.
So now your bitcoins are
Right.
tainted, basically.
Yeah, it's got
they're on the same
ETH
ledger
taint.
with ETH. So,
Yeah, it's got
shit taint. Yeah, it's really bad. Udi,
Is there
Udi,
a-
I expect to read this 3% headline in the pro
Oh, yeah.
Ethereum alerts.
So how did this turn out for you?
Well, poorly. So really, I'll tell you the reason why I bought X.
What a
The reason
surprise.
why Eric Wall went on his show, and then Peter McCormick went on his show, and then I have a friend who just sold his. I have a friend who sold his SaaS business for $10 million, and he was contacted me and he's like, "I'm gonna buy more Bitcoin. Like, how should I buy the Bitcoin?" So I was telling him how to get Bitcoin, and then he texted me the next day. He's like, "Oh, did you see that Hex coin? Maybe I should put $100,000 into that." And I was like, "Dude, what the hell? Like, no, like
Please
don't mess with that." And he's like, starts watching Richard Hart's video, and I'm like, "Okay, well, just watch the one with Giacomo Zucco, and then you'll see it's a shitcoin. It's like you don't want to mess with that. Just buy Bitcoin." So he watches it, and he's like, totally didn't get the joke, and he's like, "Oh, this guy actually has another project called Zoxbucks. Should I get some of that too?" And I'm like, I was like, no, okay, don't watch that one. That was confusing. Go watch the one with Peter McCormick, where he calls him a scammer and calls him out. So he watches that one. He's like, that guy went on that guy's show. He was so rude. He totally made Richard look like a good guy because he just was rude on his show to him, and Richard destroyed him. And I was like, what? So he's like, "I'm gonna buy $250,000 of Hex." I'm like, no. Like, so then I took it up on myself, just for my friend that was going to waste all his money. I'm like, look, I'll buy some Hex, I'll get wrecked on it and show you it's a terrible investment, and then I'll go on a show. And so I got Richard to put me on a show, and I shitcoined him. That was my idea. I wanted to go on there and tell all of his friggin' viewers that Hex is a bad investment, because all the Bitcoin maximalist guys going on there saying that he's a scammer and he's immoral and he's doing a scam. It's going over the heads of everybody else, because the average person doesn't get that. That when you call something a scam, it's like a moth to the flame effect. You're actually like, people go,
Must be good,
it's a scam. Yeah, scams can pump. I want a scam. So I went on there to try to say it was a bad investment, and I did. I think I felt like I showed that I lost a shitload of money on it, and like and the inflation rate was just so high that it was like no point to buying this shitcoin. And then I got flack from all the Bitcoin maximalist wannabe NPC guys telling me that I'm like a scam coiner and all this stuff now. Like, these guys probably have like $1,000 in their name, and I lost like $2,500 on this coin flip, like as a joke. And I kind of realized that was a stupid
who's the joke now, Brad?
Yeah, me. But then what I ended up doing with the Hex, because I didn't give a shit about the Hex really at the end. It went down 90%. That's what I wanted. But the effect of I lost all this money in Hex so that I could tell everybody watching the show, like, this is a shitcoin. So some random dude messages me after the after the episode, and he's like, I went all in on Hex. No, not all in. He's like, I went in on Hex. I want to buy some more Hex.
I'm having a hard time believing all that, but I know it's true. You know,
Well, he's this professor. He's a professor from Iran, and he's like just new into crypto. He's like, I bought Hex. I thought, yeah, and I was like, I bought Hex, and should I buy more? And I was like, didn't you watch the video where I was telling you how bad of an investment it is? And he's like, yeah, but like I can't afford a Bitcoin. It's a whole Bitcoin's like $8,000. And I'm like, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna give you all my Hex. You take it. It's 0.25 Bitcoin worth. Sell it for Bitcoin, and then I don't want this shit anyway. And so I gave him all my Hex. At that point, it actually went down to like 0.05 Bitcoin or something like that. And I gave it to him, and then the thing pumps, like goes back to the value plus like 50%. So it's worth like 0.35 Bitcoin now. So I messaged the dude like 2 weeks later. I was like, hey, the thing's way up. Did you sell it? Because now you can get real Bitcoin for that. He's like, no, I locked it in the smart contract for a year. And I was like, oh my god. So now he's gonna like, a year is gonna go by. It's probably gonna pump like 50x or something, and sell it because they're all locked up in the stupid smart contract. And then they're all gonna dump all together. It's gonna go down to nothing when everybody unlocks. So it's like, he could have got some free money, but he just like locked himself into this shitcoin contract.
I only signed my Bitcoins.
0.25 Bitcoin away to prove a point.
Oh yeah.
Well, at that point, it was only worth 0.05 Bitcoin. Hey, I paid a guy $800 to edit Udi and I's podcast episode, so I'm not very smart with money. That's the lesson we have to learn.
All right, fair enough.
It was a 3-hour episode that we did, and I was like, it took me 20 hours to edit the podcast episode I did with another guy like a month ago. I'm like, I'm not going to sit down for 20 hours again. I'm just going to pay someone to do it. I honestly didn't think it was going to be $800. I thought it would be like 100, 150, but it was $800, and I felt so bad because the guy put so much time into it. I was like, can I pay you with Bitcoin? and he let me pay. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
I appreciate
that's what happened.
you spending $800 on my voice.
It was a good episode.
It was.
I don't get enough
I'm gonna look
views
it up.
on my. Yeah, it's called Magic Internet Money, and he's called Udi Berghonder.
No, and I.
It says on the team.
What podcast?
Brad, I actually have a question. Like
Magic Internet Money.
What,
Yes.
in your own personal opinion, what was your
Yes.
worst trade? Like, you know?
Oh my god, there's actually way too many to count. What does it mean when?
Yeah, that's why I'm asking, because, you know.
What does it mean
you
when
seem
there's
to have a
a?
knick for it.
Okay, hold on. Look at the bottom left. There's an exclamation point, like a chat bubble icon or something. How do you clear that, or what is that? You guys see that?
This is probably someone sent you a friend request.
Oh, friend request?
What color is
Where's
it?
friend? Where's
Like
friend?
yellow.
Yeah, no, I had that as well, like a yellow text message.
Yeah, it won't go
icon, I
away.
think.
Oh, friend request. Okay, yeah, okay, I'll accept.
Because friend
Well,
requests are usually like
geez,
green process.
How long
Yeah,
ago
that's
are
true.
we talking about? I had a lot of bad trades there. Like this
Like,
year?
When did you go all in DentaCoin as well?
I went all in on Bitcoin Builder to try to buy more Bitcoins on Gox.
Oh,
when
no.
Gox, yeah.
Oh,
when,
man.
I was so close to doing that.
Well, I thought Roger Ver was telling the truth, and kind of because I was like in chats with him, like you're saying, you know,
Well,
there's
he
cats
was
for his
selling you
mayor.
Bitcoin builders. So
I
yeah,
thought,
he was
oh,
selling
it's
you
so
Gox
easy to
coins.
double my
Exactly.
Bitcoin. Just buy Bitcoins on empty Gox. But,
That was a big lesson for me, though. Yeah, a big lesson in risk management for sure. I should.
I lost
like
only
now.
20 cents or so on empty Gox, so
I lost so
I
many.
was safe. Yeah, I was lucky
Too
on
many
that one.
20
Only
cents.
on that one. I lost.
switched to Trade Hill one time.
I was. Yeah, I was in
I
Trade
bought
Hill
ASICs
too,
with the money, and that's another story.
What's another bad one?
Did you buy like 2,000 GPUs and started mining Ethereum?
I was gonna buy. That was a shit trade I did too, because it was like 2015 or 16 when they announced that they were gonna start doing proof of stake, and one of my friends was a big miner, and he was a big GPU miner, and he's like, I'm gonna buy 1,000 ETH so that I can stake. And I was like,
They're, by the way, they're still announcing that they're doing proof of stake.
oh, I know.
Yeah,
Every
next year,
week.
right?
And I
In 3
knew
months.
Vitalik and like Anthony Diorio and those guys, because I'm from Canada and they're pretty close by, and like I went to Decentral and whatever, so I kind of like, I was aware of the crowd sale and I was gonna buy some, but I had just lost all this money in Gox, and I was like, I decided I was gonna take the last $100,000 in my bank account, my company's bank account, and buy Bitcoin mining equipment and mine Bitcoins to try to get my Gox coins back that I lost. So I did that. I like started mining, and about 6 months later, I kind of had a decent stack built up. Then we were getting power subsidized by the Tennessee government, and it wasn't in my name because you had to be a Tennessee company. So the partner that I had that was like had the building and we were getting the 1 cent kilowatt hour power from, he wasn't paying the power bill. He was taking the money we were sending him to pay the power bill, and he was doing God knows what, buying drugs or something. He just disappeared. And so we sent one of the guys from Tennessee to go get all the shit and pick up the equipment, and the doors are all got chains on them, and they're like, you know, it's not your company, it's this guy's company, so he has to come pick it up. And we're like, this dude disappeared, we don't know where he is. He's like probably on drugs somewhere. And so they said, well, you got to buy it back from government auction. And we were like, shit. So we basically lost all of our mining equipment in this deal. But thankfully, the guy didn't steal any of the Bitcoin. So I kept the Bitcoin at least. So I got the Bitcoin. I lost all the mining equipment. And then at that point, I was like, that sucks. And I kind of got overwhelmed by it all. And I took a break from crypto for a year. And that's when the crowd sale happened with ETH. So I could have made quite a trade on ETH, but I got disconnected.
That's strange.
There's quite a bit of hydropower in Tennessee.
Hydro. Yeah, they were doing something at the time that was like they were encouraging startups in Chattanooga or one of those places to try to be like to start more tech companies. So they actually so the guy signs up as a tech company, right? And when the guy that owned the building, who works for the city, because it was a city building, comes in to collect rent, and he sees all these crazy computers everywhere, he actually called the FBI on us and thought that he like
Hey, Odie, mind if I
said that
grab
we
you
were
for
doing
a sec?
cyber terrorism or something like
What's
that.
that?
So
Mind if I grab you for a sec?
thankfully
One
the
more
guy
thing?
knew what Bitcoin was,
Sure.
and we didn't get in trouble, but we had to talk to the
Somebody
FBI about like,
else
this is
around,
not
too. Yeah, so I'll
criminals.
get the computer in a second.
Just
but
Bitcoin
just
mining.
give me a-
like-
so I got
Yeah,
this
so
snippet.
they
I like the way it turned out. Everything looked
they
good.
knew what
The video,
Bitcoin
I
was
just
back
couldn't
then
get
anyways.
downloading it, you know?
I actually have a serious question
what I
for
wanna
you
do, I
because
didn't do like a little, hey,
yeah,
you know,
you
I'm
obviously have
Udi, I'm
been around for a while and we're in touch with many different projects. How do you see the next like 5 to 10 years play out in terms of
right now,
Bitcoin and altcoin space and Bitcoin dominance?
guys, or thanks for watching.
Well, I don't think Bitcoin dominance is a good indicator. I think Bitcoin dominance is stupid, and I think we got to change that, but it's probably not going to get changed because you're comparing Bitcoin, which is money. Well, because Bitcoin is money, and if Bitcoin succeeds as the global reserve currency of the world, then you don't compare the S&P 500 to the U.S. dollar.
Awesome. All right, and let me. Do this, and we are set. All right. So this time I want to actually like face towards the camera more than looking towards each other and just kind of starting the interview as well as then actually you're on the left hand side. Let's switch places. That way it doesn't swap on us. Yep. Cool. All right. Hi guys, I'm Jerome from Bits and Tokens. I'm here introducing Udi. Tell us about yourself, Udi.
Hey. Well, I'm just a Bitcoiner. Some of you might have known me from Twitter, and we're just doing this VR meetup for Bitcoiners for a while now. I guess this is the 4th one, I think. So it's pretty awesome.
And then that's where I'll start the interview. And then for outro, thanks for watching, you guys. This is Jerome from Bits and Tokens.
Yeah, thank you. It was great.
I have Udi here. It's been a pleasure. This was a great experience. Anything that you want the audience to know before we wrap up?
Well, if you like this, then you should join us at t.me/VRBitcoin. That's the Telegram group where we announce the events. So hope to see you join us. It's a lot of fun. See ya.
And how can the audience get in contact with you?
Well, they should probably look for me on Twitter. That's my name. It's hard to spell, so just copy that, and that's a good way to find me.
Awesome. It was a pleasure. Have a great day, you guys. All right.
Cool.
Awesome, man. That was awesome experience. Fist tap it.
Thanks.
And take it easy, buddy. Have a great night.
See ya, man. Nice to meet you.
Absolutely.
When will we teach you to speak? We have to teach you to speak.
I think I can. Can you hear me?
You speak? Was that?
Oh yeah,
I can hear you.
Out.
Ah, nice.
That's great. I hacked together
Nice to
an
meet you.
Android phone to be my microphone, so it took some time, but yeah, got there.
Nice. Well, it's great to finally meet you, kind of face to face. Sort
Face
of.
to face, yes. Hi. So yeah, I'm open arms. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Ollie.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
It was a nice event. I've tried to set up on the Mozilla as well, on the Mozilla hubs, and I've heard a couple of sentences from Lop, and that was nice. I'm sure I'll be around,
Yeah.
And coming from time
Well,
to time.
he's usually joining these ones too. So, in the last 3 weeks, he was on VR chat too. He just can't come on when he's at the conference. Yeah, I guess the Mozilla hubs wasn't optimal, but we learned.
No, it's too small, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think I'm gonna head out. It's pretty late here. You sound like you're in Europe too, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's getting just past midnight, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll go say goodbye and I'll head out. But I hope to see you here again.
All right.
See ya.
Yeah, you will. Bye-bye.
All right. Great.
Thanks.
Feel free to keep talking about shitcoins.
Yeah.
It's the future. It's the future.
Shitcoin conference.
And Brad, if you can
Tron
find some
will
hacks
be
for
next.
me, I Oh, Tron is awesome. Tron is almost as good as Hex. Almost as good.
I will kill them all in a minute.
How much is one?
Okay. What's that?
Bye, Woody.
Duck? Do you ask? Okay.
Oh,
See ya!
I was just
See ya.
wondering.
Have fun.
I was wondering. I just want to have one hex. Like, how much is that right now?
Yeah, you
Oh,
can't
probably
afford
like-
one hex.
Probably
you know,
like 10 cents or something. I don't know.
You can
dude.
buy a fraction of a hex.
That's too much. Never mind.
Yeah, you can buy a fraction of a hex.
One hex always equals one hex.
Yeah.
Well, I'm interested in what you're, what you're talking about, because
Oh,
the
you can speak.
the average person
Hello.
does not instantly get born with like investment knowledge and risk management knowledge and the knowledge of like what makes Bitcoin the best cryptocurrency. So 99% of the world doesn't even have any comprehension about it. So they're going to come in line and Google Bitcoin when, let's say, Libra launches and is really successful and the 100 million users start using Libra. Well, they're going to probably then start looking at like what's cryptocurrency, and then Bitcoin's going to pop.
I don't know.
They're going to get Bitcoin probably from a shitcoin exchange that's going to sell them shitcoins. So
Yeah, sure.
it sucks, but it's the reality. And I want to do whatever I can to influence these new people that are coming into the space to realize that Bitcoin is the one that they should really pay attention to, even though they're getting taught by the exchanges to gamble on shitcoins. But it's unfortunate, but that we're in that position where Kraken and Coinbase and like Binance and stuff, they're, Kraken and Binance are pro Bitcoin. Yeah, everything. They're all like most of the popular ones. That like they have a lot of influence. So what are we gonna do?
Keep people away from them.
But how are you helping the newbies by trading shitcoins?
Because they're already trading shitcoins and they're already thinking about shitcoins. So I'm trying to show them that they're so risky and teach them kind of like risk management skills and teach them that you can trade these shitcoins if you want, but Bitcoin is the one that's likely going to be the winner. And that's the one you want to come back home to. You settle everything to the Bitcoin. That's what you don't hold these shitcoins because they're not decentralized. They're probably got bugs in them. And when they pump, that's when you sell them. Like, don't be a bag holder. If you're going to get in a coin and maybe it goes up in price, like, take your Bitcoin profits. Because,
By the way, I think you were very generous when you said like 99% of the population have no idea. I think it's way worse.
Like 99.9?
Not 0.99. I think most people have no idea what money is in the first place, and I think most people have no idea why Bitcoin will win out. And
they don't, and that's the thing.
To be fair, they don't have to know. Like it's also. I like to compare it to gold and why gold won out. Like nobody really knows why gold won out. It's just people are really good at assessing comparative value. They do A/B tests all the time. What kind of thing holds my value better? And over thousands of years, gold won. And I think over the next couple of centuries, it will just be Bitcoin that will be the obvious winner in the digital space. Later also in the real world.
I think you're right, but and I also think that even if mass adoption doesn't happen, Bitcoin could still become a global reserve currency to be worth 16 trillion or whatever. But when the price starts to go up, that's increased Lindy effect, and people are going to see like the FOMO, and they're going to start buying cryptocurrencies again.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And
I think with the next cycle already we will see another kind of FOMO. Like I think it was obvious in 2017 that we had like individual level FOMO, and I think with the next one we will have like institutional FOMO, and maybe even at some point in time. Yeah, sure,
everybody will come
be
back. The no coiners and then the new coiners.
But we had no institutions rushing in 2017. Zero. Like all the FOMO that was generated was by individual people. And I think at one point in time, like,
it was a lot.
In the next couple of cycles, we will even see something like, just imagine government level FOMO, and it's very easy to imagine like $100 trillion market cap, and and even beyond that.
That's true, but I'm thinking more along the lines of the average person, like my family, like my sister and my mom and stuff like that. I mean, I got into this thing in 2011 because I saw the low transaction fees and the idea of digital gold. Both of those things were what attracted me to Bitcoin. So it's been hard for me to see the Bitcoin fees go up and change my thesis on that, because I was one of the people that was like, this is like PayPal but no fees. Like, come join this, come join Magic Internet Money, because it's like, screw the banks taking all these fees. Because that motivates a lot of people. They don't want to pay fees.
Yeah, sure. At the time, I paid 0 cents for my transactions. They were absolutely free.
Yeah. Yeah. Which was a good way to bootstrap like adoption and like attract people to use Bitcoin because it was free. It was a good attraction.
I think this will continue to happen. I think our understanding of Bitcoin will evolve just like Bitcoin evolves as well.
It will, but
in a way.
If you think about it from the average perspective of the average person who doesn't have a ton of money, who's living paycheck to paycheck, who maybe has a retirement account, if you think in their frame of mind, anyway, that's the way I'm looking at how I want to influence people. I want to think in their frame of mind, and I don't want to say things to them like.
My point is they don't need to.
Till death and.
Yeah, sure. no.
I mean, I think that's a good idea. I think it's a good idea to hodl and everything, but I think it's almost drives people away more than it attracts people, because you come in and it's almost like cult-like language. Like, people are coming in saying, you got, if you sell Bitcoin, you got weak hands, you better hodl, like you have high time preference, or whatever. Like, people are like, what the hell is this community, like a cult or something? Like, I'm gonna go over to
sure.
DeFi where they don't say things like that to me, and that's what I want to guard against. Like, I don't want us to become so like smart and like good investment, like staunch investment advice, that it turns people off of, like average people off of like coming to join in Bitcoin.
Yeah,
I don't think that's
average
gonna
people.
happen.
I mean, average people. I think it will continue that people will kind of trickle in naturally if they are interested enough. And average people, they will have to use Bitcoin at one point in their life, either out of necessity or because they're just forced to use it. Like if it becomes the base layer of the new financial system, let's just call it a new financial paradigm, then they will have to use it, just like everyone is using the internet today, and nobody knows how the internet works, and nobody knows why the internet works so well and is so effective. But not only that, I think of it, like there was one point in time where we switched telephones to voice over IP, and every single telephone call now uses the internet, and that point was long ago, like over 10 years ago, and everyone is using the internet. Even if they don't know that they're using the internet. And I think it will be the same with Bitcoin. You're using a new app, or you're paying with your card or whatever, and you will be using Bitcoin in the background and not even realize it and know it. So I think that will happen to the average person.
Are you a dev or?
Totally agree.
I'm a dev, yeah. I'm a dev by training.
No one has a clue how email works.
Yeah.
I like that. I respect that, and I think that's true. But like, what I'm struggling with is how to impact people to use Bitcoin and buy Bitcoin before it becomes ubiquitous. And I want to change people's lives. I want people to have the same thing happen that happened previously again. I don't want them to get it when it's worth $100,000. I want them to like get some now. Put a little hedge.
Sure.
Get a little bit in your portfolio, even if you don't have a portfolio.
And I think that will happen. I mean, now the first investment managers are coming to Bitcoin, and Andy's book, for example, he's a professional investment manager and wrote a book about Bitcoin, and he has a very good thesis on Bitcoin, and I think we will see it happening. That, like,
who's Andy?
Andy Edstrom, he wrote a book on Bitcoin, which is like now a month old. Why buy Bitcoin?
Okay, cool.
Yeah, check it out. It's
well, I'm working on one right now.
it has a different perspective than most
Maybe I
other
should read
Bitcoin
it.
books. Yeah, read it. It's good. And I think we will start to see that just normal people start to allocate like 1% or below 1% of their portfolio to Bitcoin. But what I think I think the best way to quote unquote save average people is just to get them to start auto DCA. And I think more and more companies will spawn now that support auto DCA.
Why was Trace against that? Like, it doesn't seem to make any sense that he'd be against it.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I don't know, to be honest. Like, I think he just can't sympathize with... Yeah.
I can't do it, but I...
Can't dab with the beak.
I don't have a clue why it was DCA, but he is a lot more of a trader.
Yeah, you know,
if puts, calls.
Exactly. If you're a super whale and you're just dealing in puts and calls and other things, you're so far removed from the average person who earns like
he likes to do a more hands-on, controlled version.
So it's not like he was saying that people shouldn't DCA, it's just he doesn't do it. Is that what it was?
He said specifically that developer efforts implementing auto DCA on exchanges and on other services are a waste of time and are a waste of developer resources.
Oh, well, that doesn't seem like... He's been saying... He said things like that before about different...
It's not a waste.
Yeah, no, it's you know, like, I can speak from personal experience, and I onboarded many people to auto DCA. It's the best thing ever, you know, like, it's set and forget. You never have to look at the price.
I do think that's a great idea. I love that. I think that's awesome.
And, you know, it's constant buy pressure as well. It's really good for the network. You can do it in a self-custodial way. Like, it has all the benefits. It's so good. And I think...
I'll get a little notification once an hour that I've stacked.
Yeah, once an hour. Once an hour is quite drastic, but it's good. But if you really want to save people, just, you know, like, get them started with auto DCA. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I've been sharing Bitcoin for a long time, but like, I want to reach on a bigger scale. But like, I want to think about it from the perspective of what's really going to happen. They're going to read a book, they're going to Google Bitcoin, and then they're going to see all these shit coins, and they're going to start trading shit coins. So my book, I want to address that in the book and explain to them what cryptocurrencies are, what the history of the failed ones are, some of them that really did succeed, and explain it, like, truthfully to people so that they can understand the risks and why Bitcoin is the winner.
Bitcoiners is how, like, you have to understand that sound money is the first most important foundational step, and then the other attributes are an afterthought.
Yeah.
But sound money is the most important thing.
That's part of the problem, because to understand sound money, you will have to understand money and the properties of money.
You have to have a different mindset. Yeah. Most people come into it with, like, they don't even understand the dollars in their bank account.
Yeah, that's the first problem.
It takes a deep rabbit hole.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's also impossible to explain. You know, like, Bitcoin is literally impossible to explain. There is no elevator pitch, and you have to explain it to different people very, very differently. Like,
There's no one size fits all.
You like, if you're talking to someone who studied distributed systems and is a computer scientist, then you will have to explain very, very different aspects of Bitcoin than to someone who is a gold bug, and it's just almost impossible to explain it to the average person. Like, I did nothing but try to do that for the last 3 years, and I talk a lot to
what's your
average
Twitter?
people. I'm their GG on Twitter.
Oh, you have the same name? You should look at my survey.
I did as well.
You will love my handle, because there is, you know, like, the toxic maximalist emoji in my handle.
Oh,
so
great.
We instant friends.
Brad, you should buy his book.
But Brad, I also have the yin yang symbol in it, because I actually managed to see to go into full Bitcoin sand mode thanks to auto DCA.
Nice.
So, you know.
Cool. Do you have you seen the survey that I did recently?
I'm not sure. What was the survey?
I'll tweet it at you, but I did a survey where average people, like, answered a 17-question survey about the money system and stocks and Bitcoin. And I kind of wanted to do it like... okay, so Ron Paul has been doing this thing once a year where it's like if you got a $10,000 gift from a wealthy person, but there's a catch. You have to choose to keep it for 10 years. What would you choose to get it in? Would you get it in cash, bonds, Bitcoin, or gold? And it's a cool question because it's like a cool scenario to put yourself in. And obviously
Most people
Bitcoin
probably
wins.
choose cash.
Well, everybody chooses Bitcoin because we start to retweet it and then we overwhelm the whole Bitcoin. So I was like, that's actually a cool concept. I'm going to write like a full-length survey about asking that question to the average person, boomers, Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, wealthy people, poor people, men, women, and like, well, it was done through a market research company that does like real scientific like surveys. I didn't do it myself. I wrote the survey and then they did all the like polling.
That's cool.
And then we put together this report, and it's actually pretty cool to see how. And so what happens is I asked 17 questions, and at the end, after teaching them things like the stock market is up 30x over the years, but after you factor in the loss of the buying power and inflation, you're actually only up 3x. So do you think that's a good investment versus something else, you know? So things like that, and things like, you know, who really makes money and what dollars are backed by, like the typical Bitcoin rabbit hole stuff. And then at the very end, I asked them again, like the same question. To see whether or not they changed their answer from the beginning to the end to measure how effective education is on the average person. And it's really cool to see how the different generations react to the information. And you can see like boomers, how they think the dollar's backed by gold, and how Gen X and millennials don't. And how Gen Z is more knowledgeable about stocks, like they know more information about stocks, and like women are more knowledgeable about how the Federal Reserve creates dollars than men for some reason. And wealthy people are more interested in Bitcoin because they have money to invest. And like poor people initially don't even think about Bitcoin. Poor people always like choose cash. That's usually what ends up happening in the survey. And wealthy people typically choose Bitcoin or gold. So it's like the wealthy choose
Time
gold.
preference.
But then at the end, everybody chooses Bitcoin.
It's also, you know, if you're poor, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, like you have nothing to invest. Investing doesn't even cross your mind.
You just don't think about
pure
it.
And you're thinking
survival
about
is
the
the only
next week
thing that crosses
and
your
maybe
mind.
2 weeks from now. You're not thinking, you're not planning 10, 20 years from now.
Yeah, you're just reacting to your debt and your interest payments.
You're trying to live.
You know? But then as
trying
people
to survive, yeah.
like they wake up, like they kind of go through the rabbit hole a little bit with the survey, and you can see their knowledge progression. It's like, whoa, I didn't realize that there was nothing back in the dollar, and oh my god, I didn't realize how big the debt was. And most people think they're knowledgeable about Bitcoin. The ones that said that they would pick Bitcoin and said that they know about Bitcoin, they think they're knowledgeable about Bitcoin. But then when you ask them how much they think Bitcoin's worth in terms of like comparing it to gold or dollars in the world or real estate in the world, they already think Bitcoin is worth as much as gold is. Like majority of people think that it's too late to invest in Bitcoin, according to the survey.
Yeah.
So then I tell them like,
it's too
I
late.
think a lot of that is unit biasness. People think it's
they think,
about
oh,
like
it's
stocks like you have to buy a
$10,000,
whole
so
one.
expensive. So then you tell them like, well, did you know it's actually like a tiny fraction of gold, and you know it's to get the gold it would need a 50x.
Most people, when I tell them you can start with $5-20, they're like, oh, really?
Yeah. So, anyways, it's a cool survey. You should read through it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
If you like
awesome.
that stuff.
Yeah, I'd like to. I think all of that is very useful, but I think most people that have been in the space for a while, it's kind of obvious that all these biases exist. You know, like I mean, unit bias is the most obvious one, but also every single one thinks that they missed the boat. Like even Trace thought he missed the boat when he bought it like 20 cents or something. Yeah.
Well, the one thing that
the
was
same
really
story.
surprising. The one thing that was really surprising was the boomers. My general thesis there on the boomers was like it's kind of like a lost cause. Like they are set in their ways, they're not the future, so what's the point? Just wait for them to transfer their $60 trillion to Gen X and millennials, and they're the ones you want to educate, and the Gen Z. But in the survey at the beginning, it was only like 2% of boomers or something crazy would choose Bitcoin. But at the end, after they changed their their knowledge, it was like something like 33% of boomers would choose Bitcoin. And from the beginning to the end, the boomers had the most delta increase between who would choose Bitcoin at the before and after they got the knowledge.
Nice.
So I was kind of surprised, and it was actually gold wasn't the thing that they gave up. They gave up stocks and cash. So most people, they kept gold. Gold retained its value or its choice from the beginning to the end. And it was gold, it was stocks and cash that people dumped for Bitcoin. So the drop gold thing probably isn't a good idea. We shouldn't be telling boomers to drop because they like their gold, but they actually like Bitcoin if you teach them about it.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. I think a lot of those problems, they will be solved almost automatically in the next couple of years. You've so many great companies now working on exactly that, and just take Square, for example.
Oh yeah, so I'm so
in the
hopeful
US,
on Square.
It's just a matter of time.
It'd be so heartbreaking if Jack flops over to an altcoin. That would suck.
Yeah, I don't think I can't imagine that will happen actually. Like, yeah.
He might be pushed out of the company.
That would surprise me.
Me too, but like now,
so.
all the early Bitcoin people are seeming to go over to altcoins. It's kind of frustrating.
Square, they hired insanely well, and the head of product development of the Bitcoin section, it's he's an awesome guy, and he's definitely Bitcoin only, and they're
the Moneybell guy.
Efforts. Miles Suter, I don't know if you know him.
Oh, Miles, yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, and so he's pretty much in charge of product there, and like I think the whole team would have to change.
They got Matt.
Drop Bitcoin.
What's Matt's last? The blue Matt at Corallo.
Yeah,
he's a big. He's obviously like a Bitcoiner.
Yeah. No, I think everything points in the right direction with Square, but you have plenty of other companies that are doing amazing things, amazing stuff that most people don't even think about. Like for example, Strike from Jack Muller's.
That's cool. His company.
It many Bitcoiners like out of left field. Like many people were surprised that would be something that people would like to have and like to use. And so I think we'll see more of those kind of innovations coming. And like just the fact alone that Bitcoin is the best performing asset of the last decade, I think a lot of investors just have to take notice now and just add it to their portfolios as well and get more knowledgeable on Bitcoin. And so on.
It's now become irresponsible for financial advisors not to be knowledgeable about Bitcoin.
Exactly. You can't afford it anymore to not know anything about Bitcoin.
And the question goes from you go to the question of, well, how much is enough? And when how much percent is enough? And how
even if it's like 1% or some 1%, if we are right, like if Bitcoins are right, and then it will only take a couple of years, and you would have to rebalance anyway. What's 1% now? What's 1% now will be 50% in like a couple of years.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think there's no way to answer it.
Good to see you, Biocycle.
Biocycle.
Night. Have a good sleep.
Yeah,
you gotta do break dance before you leave.
Yeah, that's the
Very old time actually.
Yeah, I should go too. Well, good chat, guys.
Yeah, Brad was nice.
Yeah, good time. Good talk, fellas.
So I'll log off as well. Good night, everyone.
I'll see you guys next week. Same
Stay
I'll
toxic.
be wearing
even
the
if-
same alien.
Even if Brad doesn't believe in it, stay toxic, everyone.
Stay toxic as a joke, not for real. Don't be really toxic.
Only in real life. That's in real life. When you're buying Tiger.
I'm gonna shoot everybody a friend request.
Guys, I just want to.
Sounds good.
Bye bye.
See you, GG. Bye.
See you later.
I think the ticket sale started actually
So this is the
today.
end.
I missed it already.
See you guys.
Sorry.
See you.
Bye.
Yeah, I think so. That's what everybody they just said.
Yes, thank you.
Bitcoin.
I'm gone.
Later,
Or was
fellas.
it toilet paper? I think it was toilet paper. Thank you. Oh, there's a
Yeah,
beer.
I'm giving out beers.
Oh. Oh, enter.
What else you got? Candy.
Oh, there's actually more.
There you go. Oh, that's the best.
Oh, now I found it.
Okay,
Yeah,
people.
awesome.
I go as well. Later.
Bye. See you. Okay.
How do you exit actually? I
And
have no
see
idea.
you. Bye bye, everyone. See you next week, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Sure. We'll have more of this, I guess.
Yes.
So yeah. So what
Bye.
was that? The HTCP, the Hackers Congress, is it?
Yeah, right. That one. Yeah. That's
yeah.
a really
Oh,
cool conference.
love to
It's
go
like
to that.
like 50-50, like Bitcoin and some other like.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. I've seen some talks from that, and then I spoke a lot to like Keto Miner and some of the guys in Riga last year who were going there, and yeah, it sounded really good. And I do like these guys like Smuggler and the Frank Brown, and I
They're
know what's the
always
topic.
there. Yeah. Right.
So yeah, I would consider. Is it difficult to get a ticket for that?
I'm not sure. I think last year it was difficult. Yeah, I think actually the ticket sales should start today. No, yesterday. Yeah, on Sunday. So
Okay.
after this, I will take a look and maybe get a ticket. I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I will have a look
See.
too.
Okay. So what's that green thingy?
Right. Well, I think
Okay.
Anzi, it was really nice to speak to you. Thanks for
Yeah. Nice to speak to you.
coming
yeah.
away from the crowd. And yeah, so if not, well, I hope to see each other soon. But
Oh, I think your mic stopped again. We'll see us online, right? See you. Actually, I have a problem. Where to exit? I think I just exit the game.
right, last man standing.
Bye.